Marie Skłodowska-Curie was not just a scientist, she was a force of nature who shattered barriers, redefined scientific understanding, and dedicated her life to the pursuit of knowledge. As the first woman to win a Nobel Prize and the first person to win it in two different scientific fields, her impact on both science and society is immeasurable. She founded the new branch of science known as radioactivity, to which she devoted her entire remarkable life. Born Maria Salomea Skłodowska on November 7, 1867 in Warsaw, Poland, her early life was marked by both intellectual brilliance and profound loss. Her parents, Władysław and Bronisława, were respected educators from the impoverished Polish nobility. From a young age, Maria, or Mania, as she was known at home, displayed an extraordinary intellect, coupled with an exceptionally good memory and an uncanny ability to grasp complex concepts quickly. However, her childhood was also shadowed by tragedy. At 9, she lost her eldest sister Zofia to typhus. Just 2 years later, her mother succumbed to tuberculosis after a long illness. These deeply traumatic experiences profoundly shaped her worldview, leading her to reject her faith and grappling with a painful sense of injustice and abandonment that manifested in recurring bouts of depression throughout her life. Education was a central pillar of her upbringing. She attended her mother's former school at 16 Frita Street before moving on to Jadwiga Sikorska's school. In 1883, she graduated from the 3rd Government Girls' Gymnasium with a coveted gold medal, a testament to her academic prowess. Yet, her school years were also a crucible of Polish patriotism. Under Russian partition, education was heavily Russified, demanding strict adherence to the Tsar's narrative. Polish teachers, including her father, secretly taught Polish history and language, a defiance that often led to repression. Maria's high sensitivity to the Polish cause and a deeply rooted patriotism were indelibly forged in this environment. After graduation, the 16-year-old Skłodowska embarked on a much-needed year of respite. She visited family estates, immersed herself in novels, enjoyed outdoor activities like fishing and hiking with her cousins, and devoured Polish poetry, committing it eagerly to memory. This period reinforced her deep attachment to the countryside and nature, a love that would later draw her back to Poland for hikes in the Tatra Mountains. The University of Warsaw was closed to women, forcing Maria to seek alternative avenues for higher education. In 1884, she enrolled in the Flying University, an illegally operating underground institution. To support herself and her elder sister Bronisława's medical studies in Paris, Maria took on roles as a governess. Their pact was clear. Maria would support Bronisława first, and then Bronisława would reciprocate. During her time as a governess for the Żorawski family in Szczuka, Maria sent half her salary abroad. In a daring act of defiance against the Russian authorities, she also established an informal school for rural children, where she and the farmer's daughter taught reading and writing, a venture that risked imprisonment or deportation to Siberia. It was here that she experienced her first love, with Kazimierz Żorawski, the family's son and a mathematics student. However, their hopes of marriage were thwarted by his family, who deemed it a misalliance due to Maria's lack of social standing. In 1889, her father's new position as director of the Studzieniec Correctional Home allowed him to contribute to Bronisława's expenses, enabling Maria to return to Warsaw. She continued working as a governess for another year, while simultaneously preparing for university studies. She delved into self-education and began studying at the physics laboratory of the Museum of Industry and Agriculture under the guidance of her cousin Józef Jerzy Boguski and Professor Napoleon Milicher. There she honed her skills in chemical analysis, laying the foundational groundwork for her future groundbreaking discoveries. In the autumn of 1891, Bronisława, now married to Dr. Kazimierz Dłuski, invited her sister, Maria Skłodowska, to Paris to pursue her studies. Adjusting to life in France was difficult. Maria had to quickly master French, physics, and mathematics. As she later admitted, she was poorly prepared for Sorbonne lectures compared to her French peers. She initially stayed with her sister, whose apartment was a hub for Polish artists, but soon moved to modest rooms in the Latin Quarter to focus on her studies. At the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Maria stood out as one of the few women and studied under prominent professors like Paul Appel and Henri Poincaré. In 1893, she earned her physics degree with top honors and, a year later, her chemistry degree with high distinction. While researching the magnetic properties of steel for the French Society for the Promotion of National Industry, she met Pierre Curie, a physicist and expert in magnetism. Though he couldn't offer her lab space, he shared his knowledge, and soon, his heart. After a period of hesitation and a return visit to Poland, Maria accepted Pierre's marriage proposal. They wed in a simple civil ceremony on July 26, 1895, foregoing traditional formalities. The honeymoon, on bicycles, reflected the simplicity and shared joy that would define their life together. After marriage, Maria became known as Marie Curie, among other variations of her name.
Marie and Pierre worked side by side in the laboratory of the School of Physics and Chemistry, initially focusing on their individual research, he on crystal growth, she on the magnetic properties of metals. On September 12, 1897, their first daughter Irene was born. Balancing the demanding roles of mother and scientist took a toll on Marie, leading to panic attacks and general exhaustion. However, the significant support from Pierre's widowed father, who helped with childcare and household chores, allowed Marie to embark on her doctoral dissertation research. She chose as her subject uranium radiation, a phenomenon discovered years earlier by Henri Becquerel, who had largely abandoned it, deeming it uninteresting. Marie, however, was undeterred. Pierre in turn supported her by improving his own invention, the electrometer, and other devices crucial to her experiments. Marie distinguished herself with extraordinary skill and concentration, qualities essential for the delicate research and precise tools she employed. Her examination of various minerals led her to a pivotal conclusion. Only those containing uranium or thorium, which she herself identified as another radioactive element, were active in emitting radiation. Moreover, some minerals exhibited activity 3 or 4 times greater than calculations based on their uranium content alone. Reflecting on this, Marie wrote in her autobiography, "Pondering its cause, I saw only one explanation, that some unknown, yet highly active substance must exist in these minerals. My husband agreed with me and insisted that we begin searching for this substance immediately, hoping that our combined efforts would quickly lead to its discovery. When we began this work, however, neither of us could have foreseen that it would create a new branch of knowledge, one that we would continue to pursue for the rest of our lives." And so, Skłodowska-Curie made her first monumental discovery, a previously unknown element within uranium-bearing minerals that was significantly more radioactive. In July 1898, she named it polonium, Latin polonium, in honor of her beloved homeland. Her observations also led to 2 revolutionary conclusions. Radioactivity is measurable and it is a property of atoms, more precisely, of the atomic nucleus itself. Despite the profound nature of these findings, they initially received little attention. Marie did not yet hold a doctorate, was a Polish immigrant, and crucially, was a woman, factors that unfortunately diminished her credibility within the scientific establishment of the time. Undaunted, Pierre Curie soon made the pivotal decision to abandon his work on crystal growth and join his wife in the pursuit of radioactivity. Marie was determined to discover another element, a goal she achieved in December 1898. She named it radium, from the Latin radius, meaning ray. Though Marie and Pierre Curie were convinced of the existence of polonium and radium, isolating them and confirming their chemical properties would take years of grueling work. Their greatest challenges were securing lab space and funding. Rejected by the Sorbonne, they were eventually given a dilapidated former morgue by the School of Physics and Industrial Chemistry. With no funds for raw materials, Pierre negotiated a donation of uranium pitchblende, a waste product from the Austrian government, receiving first 100 kilograms, then a ton. In her memoir, Marie described the harsh but fulfilling conditions, long hours stirring boiling material, preparing meals in the lab, and watching their glowing chemical preparations light up the dark. This glow, though beautiful, was slowly damaging their health. Pierre suffered joint pain, Marie grew increasingly frail. In 1900, Pierre became an associate professor at the Sorbonne, and Marie began teaching physics at a girls' school in Sèvres. In 1902, she isolated pure radium chloride and by 1906 confirmed it as a new element. The crowning moment came in 1903, when the couple, along with Henri Becquerel, won the Nobel Prize in Physics for their work on radioactivity. Marie was nearly excluded from the nomination until Swedish mathematician Gustav Mittag-Leffler intervened. She became the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. Too ill to attend the ceremony until 1905, only Pierre gave the lecture, where he emphasized Marie's essential role in their discoveries. On December 6, 1905, the Curie's second daughter, Eve, was born. The widespread recognition from the Nobel Prize led to a new chair in physics being created specifically for Pierre at the Sorbonne. With a new workplace and improved research space, the couple could finally leave their old, dilapidated laboratory. However, their cherished peace was shattered by a devastating blow. On April 19, 1906, Pierre Curie was tragically killed when he was struck by a horse-drawn wagon. This immense loss was felt deeply within scholarly circles and across the nation. Devastated, Skłodowska-Curie kept a poignant journal for a year, recording her thoughts addressed to her deceased husband and resolutely continuing his unfinished research. In a historic moment, the Polish woman agreed to take over her husband's duties at the university, becoming the first woman to lecture at the Sorbonne. She began as an associate professor and in 1908 became a full professor. Her first lecture on November 5, 1906 drew immense crowds who had waited since early morning. When Skłodowska-Curie entered the auditorium, she was met with a storm of applause. Yet, with characteristic composure, she picked up precisely where Pierre Curie had left off, speaking in a cool and matter-of-fact tone. In 1910, her father-in-law died, another personal blow that added to the challenge of balancing family life with her demanding work. She placed great importance on her daughter's upbringing, emphasizing their education and physical activity. Although raising them as French, she hired a Polish governess to ensure Irene and Eve learned Polish, protecting them from the conflict of choosing between homelands. She also collaborated with fellow Sorbonne professors to establish a cooperative college for their children, where each scholar gave elementary lectures. This experimental teaching approach lasted 2 years and proved successful, with her older daughter Irene easily passing her secondary school leaving examination and beginning her studies at the Sorbonne. Irene Joliot-Curie ultimately followed in her parents' footsteps, becoming a physical chemist and in 1935 receiving the Nobel Prize in Chemistry with her husband Frédéric Joliot-Curie. In 1910, Skłodowska-Curie was offered the prestigious Legion of Honor, but she declined, just as her husband had done years earlier. Both were opposed to honorary distinctions. At the urging of her colleagues, she submitted her candidacy to the Paris Academy of Sciences, hoping it would benefit her laboratory. However, her application was unsuccessful. The Academy was not yet ready to admit women. In 1911, Marie Skłodowska-Curie received her second Nobel Prize, this time individually and in chemistry, for her discovery of the new elements polonium and radium and her production of pure radium. This made her the first person to win a Nobel Prize in 2 different fields, a feat later shared by Linus Pauling, who won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1954 and the Nobel Peace Prize in 1962, and she remains the only woman to have received the prize twice. Her second Nobel Prize provided the leverage she needed to realize a long-held dream. After 5 years of tireless effort, she persuaded the French government to open the private Radium Institute in Paris in 1914. This modern medical and research facility finally provided a well-equipped laboratory for dedicated research on radioactivity. In 1912, the Scientific Society of Warsaw invited Skłodowska-Curie to collaborate on the creation of a new radiology laboratory in Poland. She agreed to oversee its leadership and research organization, delegating its day-to-day operation to 2 of her students, Jan Kazimierz Danysz and Ludwig Wertenstein, as she had no plans to leave France permanently. In 1913, she came to Warsaw for the grand opening, an event that deeply moved her. I was given a moving welcome. I also have an indelible memory of the enthusiasm of a nation capable of building something useful under exceptionally difficult political circumstances, she wrote. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 found Skłodowska-Curie in Paris. Recognizing the danger of an attack on the capital, The government ordered her to transport the valuable radium held at the institute to Bordeaux, which she personally carried out before returning to Paris. She felt a profound need to use her scientific knowledge for the benefit of the medical service during the war. She began organizing radiology and radiotherapy services in military hospitals, recognizing that X-ray machines would dramatically improve care for the wounded. She developed and deployed mobile radiological vehicles, affectionately known as Little Curies, that could travel wherever they were needed. To personally drive one, she even obtained her truck driving license. With private donations and support from the Patronage National de Blaise Committee, her activities expanded significantly. Skłodowska-Curie was incredibly committed, visiting numerous military districts, identifying needs, overseeing hospitals, and crucially, teaching new personnel how to use the machines. She understood the importance of educating women in this field, as men fit for military service were being transferred, creating a critical need for new staff. She initiated the establishment of a radiology department at the nursing school at the Edith Cavell Hospital. In 1916, courses began at the Radium Institute, led, among others, by her elder daughter Irene, which trained 150 assistants, prepared to work independently. Skłodowska meticulously chronicled all of this activity in her book, Radiology and War, published under the name Madame Pierre Curie, which describes the importance of radiology and its rapid development during the conflict. After World War I, in 1920, the French government awarded Marie Curie a rare honorary annuity previously granted only to Louis Pasteur. 2 years later, she was inducted into the French Academy of Medicine. Her fame brought global support. In 1921, thanks to American journalist William Brown Maloney, she received a gram of radium and funding for her research through the Maria Curie Radium Fund. She donated all proceeds to her institute. One of her lifelong dreams came true when Poland established its own Radium Institute. She laid the cornerstone in 1925 and returned for its opening in 1932, her final visit home. She donated another gram of radium again from her American supporters. Today, that institution is the Maria Skłodowska-Curie Institute of Oncology. Marie Curie died on July 4, 1934, from leukemia caused by prolonged radium exposure. She was buried in Sceaux, where her siblings honored her with soil from Poland. In 1995, her remains were transferred to the Pantheon in Paris, cementing her legacy as a national icon. Her life continues to inspire through books, films, and memorials. Her daughter Eve's 1937 biography became a global bestseller. From craters on the moon to the element curium, her name endures worldwide. Marie Curie was more than a scientist. She was a trailblazer who shattered barriers in a world ruled by men. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more powerful stories of history's greatest pioneers.